These next two races, Pete, there are certainly plenty of value about them.
Plenty of value indeed, Dan, and worth pointing out about Danarani too. I spoke to Bart Cummings when he came in for our Melbourne Cup preview on Sunday, and he just said that the filly jarred up a little bit, and it might have been on the crossing over about the 800-metre mark. So if you've got a fancy for Danarani, don't be too disappointed with their effort in the Wakeful Stakes on Saturday. And that's for the Oaks, which is race 5. But there's a pretty busy place here at Flemington on Oaks Day especially, but that's not the only place champagne is consumed, as you can see. My colleague Stephen Quartermain, normally out here on Oaks Day, he's back hard at work today, and I know he's missing casting an eye over the fillies out here on Oaks Day, both four-legged and two. Tim, I know that Quarters wishes he was here. I'm glad that we are.
Yes, I'm glad that we're here, and as you say, Quarters and TK alike seem to have this sort of magnetic thing between them and the champagne bar. It draws them over there, but I'm sure they'll be there at the end of racing today. Yes, it's a bit of a salute today. One hand or the other appears to be holding on the hat, bit breezy, but as you can see, the ladies of Melbourne and from wherever else they've come, looking just terrific on Oaks Day, as they always do. Everyone really goes to a lot of trouble to make the day as colourful as it can be. OK, now here's something we did want to tell you about. This Saturday, the VRC is holding a fashion competition for kids aged between 5 and 10. Now, anyone can enter. Now, the idea is for the children to dress up in racing outfits, so not fancy dress, but racing outfits. And the winning boy and girl will each receive a fantastic prize, trip to Singapore for a family of 4, courtesy of Louder Air. Magnificent prize. Now, judging will take place on the lawn area in front of the stands, where fashions on the field have taken place every day. You know where that is. Judging time will be from 11 till 1 p.m. on Saturday, and also around 1, Channel 10 personalities will be there in the judging area to meet the folks, sign some autographs. There'll be clowns and face painting and a whole bunch of fun. So why don't you get the kids involved in that on Saturday? And the theme on Saturday too, by the way, is Family Day. So bring them along to have a good time.
Think Big really is a living legend. Only 4 horses have won 2 Melbourne Cups. Think Big is the only living horse to do it. In fact, he is the oldest living Melbourne Cup winner. Since the hectic racing days in the Bart Cummings stable, Think Big has lived in retirement at jockey Harry White's property at Gisborne on the outskirts of Melbourne. Harry White has 4 Melbourne Cups to his credit, and needless to say, a real soft spot for the horse that provided him with his first 2. Think Big started at 12 to 1 in the 1974 Melbourne Cup. His stablemate, Leilani, was the short-priced favourite.
They talk about Kiwi's finish, but I would say he was every bit as strong, if not even stronger than Kiwi's finish. That's the power of the last furlong. I think Big finished off a 2-mile race.
Think Big is picking it up down the outside, and Think Big has got up to win the Cup.
Think Big failed to win another race until the 1975 Cup. The conditions that day were awful. The track was a quagmire, and Harry White thought he had no hope. So did punters. Think Big started at 33 to 1.
And I got to the races and the heavens opened up, and I thought, well, the horse has got no hope. And I was that disappointed. I went and had to lay down, and the club doctor had to give me a call and said, I think he was only on the back, but he thought I said I'm in this race. Yeah, he said, I thought I said I'd win it. He went out and backed. I was 33 to 1.
Think Big wins in second place. He has
Think Big never got the chance to make it 3 Cups. He broke down in the lead-up to the 1976 Melbourne Cup and has spent the rest of his days with his jockey and, more importantly, his mate, Harry White. On Melbourne Cup Day 1994, Think Big will be 24 years old.
Just gave us a little wink there, and I think Big actually knows what a champion he is, and what a champion he was indeed. To win that race twice, I mean, think about that, only 3 horses have ever done it. It is a hell of a feat. Well, now, those of you who've never been to this racecourse before, but we show you the pictures, should know that the feature of the racecourse is the absolutely beautiful roses. So a feature of Oaks Day tends to be flowers. Here's Michelle.
Flemington once had perennials that surrounded the racetrack, but about 30 years ago, roses were planted as a cost-cutting exercise. Now the roses have almost come to symbolise the Melbourne Cup Carnival. Unfortunately, nature doesn't always run to a timetable, and due to a dry, cold winter, this year the Flemington roses are blooming late. There are 7,500 bushes planted around the course. The roses were planted as they're hardy against a large crowd, and in one particular case, stopping people. A couple of years ago, a streaker being chased by the police jumped the fence and ended up being caught in the rose bushes. Unfortunately for him, it was a bit of a sore point. But it's not only the grounds that reflect spring. Kevin O'Neill's florist has been busy preparing the many floral arrangements that decorate the corporate marquees and rooms of Flemington. Even a hat receives the O'Neill touch. And this year, ladies' fashions are sporting a flower or two.
Yes, as we said right at the beginning of the program, one of the beautiful days on the calendar. And there are the magnificent Flemington roses. We'll take a break and come back with the fourth very shortly.
Ridden by Grant Cooksley. Of course, he was one of the outstanding 2-year-olds of last season. She's a big, strong horse, isn't he?
Oh, and he looks terrific here today too, Peter. In his Golden Slipper run 2 starts ago, well, he got galloped on there, so you can forget that run. He's had one run in from a spell, this fellow. He just seemed to run out of steam at Canterbury there, but he's a lot fitter now. A little bit of a task from the barrier 16 and 57 kilos, but he looks fantastic.
Just a quick one before we go to the next horse. Colin Browell is the rider for number 10 here. Follow the ride. There's been a late riding change. Damien Oliver is not riding. Nothing to do with his wrist. He can't make the weight of 51 kilos. So C. Browell aboard that fellow, number 10, Follow the Ride. Now, the other ones, Through the Chances, 2 Dry Humour, to be ridden by Danny Brereton, replacing Rodney Griffiths. And this horse has had a change of ownership and a change of trainer, Jen, and he's in pretty good form too. Yes,
he's now situated in Melbourne, Peter, and he races very handy, this horse. He's a good horse. He's won his last 3 starts, and he's going to be quite hard to beat. 3 Victoria Park, the rider is Darren Beedman, trained by Graham Rogerson at Randwick. And at his last start, this fellow finished second to Perfect World at Caulfield. Wasn't a bad effort, and his Sydney form before that was reasonably sound. Yes, his last performance, Peter, he was quite wide at Caulfield all the way throughout that race. He battled on okay. I gave him a chance. Another good looker in the mounting yard is number 8, Stonebrook Meadow, to be ridden by David Taggart, who's already had success here today. Trained by Clary Connors of Warwick Farm. He was up on his toes. He looks very fit. He looks fantastic, this fellow. I don't think he really handled Caulfield at his last start. He is from Sydney, this fellow. And when I say that, I think he really does need the bigger track here at Flemington, and I think he'll improve here. The one that I've gone for in the race, Jen, looking for some value, number 12, Chief of Staff. He's a nice-looking horse, this fellow, this 3-year-old colt, trained by John Marr. And he's only had the 2 starts, and he might be a horse on the up. Second to I Love Sydney here, so the form line reads very well through that, and then went to Bendigo and absolutely strolled in. Harder here than Bendigo. I just like the look of him, though. Yes, Pete, I think you've summed that up pretty well. At Flemington, at his very first start, he was on the worst part of the track, and he kept going quite well. The only thing that worries me with his Bendigo win, the time wasn't all that good, but I gave him a place chance here, Pete. And you like Montegrazzo, number 14. Michael Clark is the rider now, replacing Paddy Payne. Tell us the reasons why, Jen. Well, a few reasons, Peter. He's got blinkers on for the first time today. His last run at Flemington was quite strange. He got back, and then he went forward, and he went backwards again, and then he still managed to run on at the end. He's been freshened up. He's had a month to improve, and I think he is the improver here with 51 kilos, a terrific chance. So Montegrazzo each way for you. What about the dangers? The dangers, I think, is number 2, Dry Humour, and number 8, Stonebrook Meadow, who looks terrific. I think Chief of Staff, number 12, to beat Dry Humour. And Poyak, on his appearance, will run a big race. There he is, but he's got barrier 16. The good horses weight 57 kilos at the 1,400 metres. Is not too much help to him. But they're on their way to the gates now. This is race 4. Scobie Breasley Stakes, named after one of our greatest jockeys, and it was great to see him here on Derby Day. Tote punters have been having their say, and here's Dan to check out the tote call.
With 6 minutes of betting remaining, Power Yak at $10.30 for the win, Dry Humour $5.80, Victoria Park $5.30 in the favourite and a very open affair, Torresel $22.20, Centre Isle $16, Navy Brass $25.20, our Persian King $18.20, Stonebrook Meadow $15.80, 9 Game Lad $36, 10 Follow the Right $14.70, Markstad $21.60, Chief of Staff $6.80, Sober Suit $37, Montegrazzo $9.80, all wrapped up $84, Spanish Rain $55, and Cacophony being a scratching, that's horse number 17. So $5.40. Victoria Park, the favourite in a wide open affair on the tote. Terry, what's the scene like in the ring?
Well, Danny, the scene is quite chaotic at the moment. It's not hard to meet new friends down here. I've met about 1,000 throughout the week already. We've got a couple of days to go. A very, very keen betting race here, and as predicted, Victoria Park has been very heavily backed in the ring. It's paying about $5.50 on the tote. It's about 2 points shorter than that with bookmakers, so that's always a good sign. There's been good money also for Poyak. Dry Humour has blown out the gate, and over the page and down the bottom is Chief of Staff. There's been no money for Chief of Staff. Stonebrook Meadow has been spec'd at pretty good double-figure odds, and of course always got plenty of tips here. What do you like, Simone?
Sober Suit, thanks. Number 13.
Sober Suit? Well, I hope not too many people will be too sober by the end of the day here, but Sober Suit, a very, very big roughie, has got no hope at all.
Oh, yeah. Terry Kennedy down there with Rent a Crowd in the betting ring, and of course they aren't friends of his, they're just the people he owes money to. They start at the 1,400 metre mark, and it's a quick run to the turn, which will take them into the straight at the 450, and that's why outside barriers here are a distinct disadvantage unless you've got early speed. And there are the selections: Chief of Staff each way from me, Montegrazzo each way from Jenny Chapman, and Dry Humour from both John Letts and Roy Higgins. Race 4 coming up on Oaks Day, third day of the VRC Spring Carnival, the Scobie Breasley Stakes. You're watching Network 10's live and exclusive coverage of the Melbourne Cup Carnival. Back in a moment.
Friday. Even a couple to move up. Most open affair, Gaz.
Well, it certainly is. Look, I love the look of Dry Humour, number 2. I thought Victoria Park looked very well. Beautifully bred horse by Breasley out of Victoria Peak. I won a Moya Stakes on her. And the other one I liked was number 12, Chief of Staff. But a very open race.
Chief of Staff going into the line now with a white with the purple stars. And that's Game Lad drawn the outside. Gate number 16. Goes up, and they're all locked away, and they're racing now. Poweryak was a little bit tardy to begin. Gameland was eased to the start. Victoria Park was the first to bounce out from Navy Brass, quickly taking it on. Navy Brass in front now. Markstad got up on the inside. Going around them was our Persian King. It's racing forward now with Stonebrook Meadow. Victoria Park is racing 5th. They were followed by Follow the Right, and all wrapped up on the inside of Dry Humour. A length and a half back to Chief of Staff, and then came Torrizel. Over on the inside as they settled down to the 650 Sober Suit. A length and a half to Montegrazzo, and then came Spanish Rain. Centre Rail, Game Lad, and Poweryak was last of all. Inside the 700 metres market, Stonebrook Meadow worked to the lead from our Persian King. Navy Brass 3rd. A length and a half away 4th as they run to the home turn. Now was Torrizel. Markstad just over on its outside. Dry Humour the rail. Victoria Park's close enough if it's good enough today. Follow the Right just in behind them with Chief of Staff, but it's under the whip. Sober Suit back to the inside as they come down to the 300 metre point. Stonebrook Meadow, Navy Brass together. A length in front of Markstad, then Dry Humour, Victoria Park. Sober Suit running on pretty well. Navy Brass in front. Markstad coming in it on the outside. Markstad goes up to Navy Brass, and then came Sober Suit. Stonebrook Meadow. Markstad's in front with 100 metres to go. He's got it won. Sober Suit, Navy Brass battle out 2nd and 3rd, but Markstad will win. A length and a half to Sober Suit. 3rd home Navy Brass. Spanish Rain made a very good ground at the finish to run 4th. Then Torrizel, Follow the Right next in, and then Centre Rail, Stonebrook Meadow. Game Lad, Victoria Park, our Persian King, Poweryak and Dry Humour, and then came well back in the field, all wrapped up, Montegrazzo, and Chief of Staff has run last.
A great win, Dan, and look at the time they've ran, 1:22.6. Very good time on this type of track. But that was a very strong win. The horse was always travelling really well. But Danny Adam had it beautifully positioned, brought it out at the right time, and went to the line very strongly.
Got a fine record now, 5 starts for 3 wins. Well, some of the main fancies in the race weren't travelling well coming to the turn. Markstad was, and sprinted past the stablemates inside the furlong. $20.70 approximately, and $5.70 for Markstad. Sober Suit $8.80, and Navy Brass approximately $6.70, so it will be a whopper trifecta. 11, 13 and 6 are the placings, and at this point Markstad asserts his superiority. Gary Willis.
He certainly does. That's him, 3 off the fence in the red and white colours with the blinkers on. He's just getting away now, hands and heels riding. He's going to pull the stick now as he comes to the clock tower. The one on the outside here getting home very strongly is Sober Suit. But all the winners with this mark stat, it's gone to the line very well. Won very easily.
Well, it certainly helps in a race like that to be well ridden, and Danny Adam had it in a perfect position. I'm sure Greg Urell, Peter, would have been wrapped in the ride.
Yeah, it was a beautiful ride, and Greg's down here with me now. We were just commenting on the fact that it was a lovely ride.
He did a very good job. He was well positioned. I was a little bit worried that he might have just over-travelled a little bit earlier, but he had a little bit of cover which got him to settle, and being his first time at the 1400, it was he rode him very well, and the horse did a very good job.
I think there was a bit of money went on in the ring. Any of it yours?
Not as much as I probably would have liked to have done.
What about this colt, Greg? Can he go on?
I think he can. Look, he's got a very good attitude at what he does. He's a true professional. He's very, very relaxed. He doesn't waste anything that he does on the track. You know, he's very good at home. You know, everything about him, he is a true professional at what he does. And ideally, if we can aim in next week at the Sandown Guineas and see how he goes from there.
Just finally, Tim mentioned before you may have had a background in show jumping. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. We had a little bit to do with it. We as I said earlier, had show jumping team. The last event I competed at was LA in '84.
Well, this pays a bit better than show jumping out here at Flemington.
Does.
Greg, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Greg Urell, the winning trainer with Markstad in race 4. Here's Danny Adam out there with Johnny Letts.
Danny, a very exciting young horse.
Yeah, he does. He looks very promising, John.
Yeah. Danny's going to run the Sandown Guineas next week, do you think?
Yeah, I think you'll get the mile too.
And you had a nice run all the way?
Yeah, had a lovely run.
The time was phenomenal, wasn't it? 1:22.
Yeah, we're hiking along and he was always careful. He was never going to get beat.
Yeah, good luck, Dan.
Danny Adam with John Letts. Yes, unbelievable time. 1:22.6 in race 4. And that's an impressive win by Markstad, and maybe he might go under the Sandown Guineas. 13 seconds Sober Suit. Number 6, third Navy Brass. Officially 4th was Tours Eel. And 5th home in the race was the bottom one, Spanish Rain. Time 1:22.6. And there's the scene coming around the turn in the red and white stripe colours is Markstad. Danny Adam just having a look around there, biding his time, about to make his run when they've got about 500 metres to go at that point. That's Chief of Staff Stephen King following him in the white with the purple cap. But whilst Chief of Staff went backwards at the end of the race, this fellow, Markstad, went forwards very, very quickly too. 1:22.6, and now being headed, as Greg Urell just said, to the Sandown Guineas, which is coming up, of course, on Saturday week. So 4 over, 4 to go, including the big one of the day, the Crown Casino Oaks Stakes. Back to Flemington after this break.
A dance with...
The happy and cheerful faces of the racegoers at Flemington on Oaks Day for '94. Not sure of a crowd just yet. We'll learn that later in the afternoon and let you know. But on what isn't the best day in the world, there's a lot of people here. Our ritual about to take place one more time. Mr. Lawler over to the stand. Make sure he's happy. And on behalf of Cousins, we will then notify you of correct weight. Correct weight is right there, so that means for $1 on the Victorian tote. As we remind you, it is the Victorian dividends we're giving you here. Here's Danny.
And they're pretty big dividends at that, Tim. Markstad, $20.80 and $5.70. Sober Suit, $8.90 for the place. And Navy Brass, $6.70. Quinella dividend, $294.30. The trifecta, $14,819.70, and the race-to-race double paid $70.10. The margins 2 lengths by a half a length, and the time was 1:22.6.
Thank you, Dan. Well, Markstad's form in the bush was pretty good, and he's come to town and pretty much blitzed them. That was a great run. They're ready for the presentations down there. Here's Rocco. Scobie, of course, won Victoria Derby, English Derbies, Caulfield Cups, and it's great to have him here, and he's looking pretty hale and hearty as well. Well, Peter Donegan, Greg Urell was being far too modest when he said he had a bit to do with show jumping. I'm just trying to remember the name of the horse that he had in the early 80s. I'm sure some of our viewers will know it was a sensational horse, and Greg was a great show jumping rider, and obviously turning into a pretty handy trainer as well. And I can tell you, your host, on the strength of that, was on number 11, and we're pretty happy up here.
Well, all I can say, Tim, is your shout after the last.
My pleasure.
Well, we got the Quinella in that race, Tim, Jenny Chapman and I. Unfortunately, it was at the wrong end of the field. Yeah?
Mine beat yours, OP.
Oh, OK. What about this Oaks Stakes? It's a pretty open race. We've got a lot of runners, 17 runners, and As Paddy Payne said before, they start at the 200 here, so it's just going to be a helter-skelter dash down to the first turn.
Yes, it will, and I think barriers play quite an important part in this because they've got to get in before they get around that turn. Peter, I like number 3, Euphoria. I really like the way she got to the line on Saturday in the Wakeful Stakes. That was 2,000 metres, 2,500 today. I think she'll run out the distance. She's drawn nicely in barrier 2. The second I've put in number 13, Preview, the horse that was favourite in the Oaks trial at Geelong. Stewart's queried that ride. He got well back, ran on late towards the end. And number 5 I have put in for third, Captiva, because she's very, very honest and her form's been pretty good.
Well, my selections in the Oaks, I thought Captiva's been showing tremendous form in the lead-ups, especially in that 1,000 guineas at Caulfield, where she got absolutely flattened at about the 1,300 and ran home really well. I think she can win from Euphoria, the horse you like, Jen. Northwood Plume is a lovely filly. I think she'll be right in the race, and if you're looking for one at odds, Ladybird Blue. And after looking at that replay in our panel this morning, Our Sacrifice ran a very nice race in the Wakeful Stakes.
Yes, I've certainly put her in as a roughie there, Pam.
All right, so any number of chances here in race 5. The Crown Casino Oaks. Here's the tote call now with Dan Malicki.
Danarani up the top, $7.90. Northwood Plume, $5.30. Euphoria, $7.60. Marathon, $23.50. Captiva, $5 even. And she is the favourite, Captiva, at this stage. Dream of the Dance, $13.70. Talaga, $49.70. Wild Thunder, $10.30. Bichette, $15.10. Ladybird Blue, $11. Always for Sale, $59.30. Our Sacrifice, $27.70. Preview, $23.40. Eloquent Whisper, $90.80. Centika, $154. Shaquille, $63. And Dolveet, $138. So similar to a Melbourne Cup field, it's just about as open, Pete.
It is very open indeed. 4-1 the field on the tote for the main race today, and they're just enjoying a drink after the races down there. We saw Scalacci having a drink after his effort some time ago in the Linlithgow Stakes, but now all the fine-tuning is done for the fillies, and they're getting set, the saddles going on, and all the preparations, the last-minute preparations going on before the running of the main race on the third day, which has attracted a good crowd. Pretty hard to tell from our position, but you can see from the shots that we're taking all around the course that we have a big crowd and a colourful crowd, Tim. The ladies look as though they're really enjoying their day.
Yes, and why wouldn't you? I'm now enjoying mine. Yes, thank you, our viewers. Johnny Mack was the name of one of the horses I'm trying to think of. He had a black one too, I'm sure, that I saw at the Futurity one year. But Johnny Mack was the coloured horse that Greg Urell rode, and a fine rider he was, and congratulations to him. That was a great win from last day. We'll take a break. Back with more of the Oaks very soon. There they are, some of the ladies here enjoying Oaks Day of 1994, and some of the fellas as well. It's just a great day, and that little mist we had early in the morning has by and large stayed away. Flowers the order of the day. But we mentioned earlier that Marie Louise is wearing a beautiful and very fetching short skirt, so we sort of came to the conclusion that it might be common around the racecourse, so Michelle went to find out.
Well, of course, the big question this season is skirt lengths. Are they up or are they down? Well, they're up and they're down.
Or down. Everyone looks just terrific. Well, now it's high time to make some decisions on the principal event. The Oaks run over the Marathon 2,500 metres and pitting the finest bred, best performed fillies in Australasia. This race and tradition, the history books let us in on the secret. It's always reserved for a 3-year-old destined to go to great heights in racing. These are the 1994 contenders.
In recent times, the Oaks has proven to be a favourites race, the cream inevitably rising to the top. And amongst the cream this year is the Bart Cummings-trained Danarani. This flying second behind Northwood Plume in the 1,000 guineas at Caulfield was an outstanding run before she jarred up a little when 6th in Saturday's Wakeful. Northwood Plume overcame difficulties in that Caulfield win and then chased home eventual Derby winner Blevick in the AAMI Vase at Moonee Valley. She's a rangy bay filly, but the only drawback today will be her wide draw in barrier 15. The Wakeful Stakes is always a good guide, and the first 7 place getters from that race will line up today. Dream of the Dance, the winner goes up 3 kilos this afternoon. Captiva and Euphoria filled the placings, while Marathon, Our Sacrifice and Dolbeat weren't far away. Captiva especially looks an ideal Oaks type. She's only pint size, but she's been running on in every one of her races and looks likely to have no trouble with the 2,500 metre journey. And at nice each way odds, don't be surprised if the John Sadler trained filly Ladybird Blue runs a cheeky race. She flashed home to beat Love of Mary in the Great Western at Moonee Valley, with Tuesday's winner New Smyrna also left in her wake.
Yes, there's plenty in it, and some fine fillies amongst them. Well, they're the finest in the land, aren't they? And down in our marquee, Murray Louise has GMA's Bob Finlay with her.
That's right, and Bob, of course, is GMA's fitness expert. Now, on a day like today, Bob, when it's freezing, yet we ladies get out in our short skirts and our light jackets, how do we keep warm?
Well, I think if they move around quickly and take a bit of solid food into them, it'll keep them warm, but basically keep on the move.
What, wriggle your toes?
Wiggle your toes, keep your legs moving, but basically get around from tent to tent and place a few bets on.
Now, Bob, of course, only moments to go, really, until the Oaks. I know you've been studying the form guide because I've been sitting next to you at lunch. What's your tip?
Well, for tips, I really like the underdogs, and I'm not one for favourites, so I've gone for Bichette.
You just heard me say that, didn't you?
No, there's good reason. There's good reason. I was sitting next to Paddy Newton, as you know, so I went for Patrick. Patrick's had 3 rides on this horse, and they've all been good. He's had 2 wins. He's ridden in good, dead track and a good track. And, of course, 2,200 metres. It's one in a dead track. So I know it's a bit longer today, but I like it as an outside chance, and I'll be putting all my money on that one. I've had 3 wins, so I can't be
Well, you must be doing all right.
I'm doing all right.
Considering, Tim, this is the guy who said to me, is there such a thing as a bad track and a good track? So, I don't know. You can take your... I don't know if you're going to accept his tips or not, but there you go.
Murray Louise, if you're backing winners, it doesn't matter what the track's like.
That's right. That's right.
Good on you, Bob. Thanks, Murray Louise. Let's go down now to Gordon Bray. He's in the stall area, and we've got a long shot for the ladies, Gordon.
Tim, while the multi-million-dollar racing stables have dominated the Cups Carnival, there are many sides to racing, and Dolbeat is an outsider in the Oaks. Let's go and meet the family concerned. Rick Bruin from Mount Gambier in South Australia, his wife Ros and daughter Christy. Rick, what about Dolbeat's chances?
Dolbeat, I believe, will be better next year when she's a little mature, but we're here trying to fulfil a dream and win an Oaks thing. We race fillies, our own fillies basically, and it'll be a lovely race to try and win.
So, Ros, your owner trainers, it's very much a family affair?
Yes, that's right. We do most of it ourselves, feed them, work them at home.
And what about Christy? A day off school?
Yes, the principal said she was allowed.
Now, what about the going out there? It is dead for the Oaks. Is that going to help Dolbeat?
We hope so. We believe she handles it. She appears to in track work, so we're here hoping.
And is this the biggest race of your lives?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is a race we sort of dream about winning, and it'd be lovely to pull it off.
It's a nice long price.
Certainly is.
It would be lovely to pull it off, to be standing there on the dais and be crowned the Crown Casino Oaks winner for 1994. I've got VRC Chairman David Burke with me. G'day, David. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
Well, the weather's not been sensational, but the crowds have been pretty good.
Yeah, we've been very pleased with the crowds, really. Get 81,000 on Cup Day was terrific.
Yeah, and I think pretty close to a record on Derby Day, 54 on 1,000.
That was the biggest crowd we'd had for over 30 years.
You got a tip for the crowd today?
Oh, it's a pretty hard race. I like the top weight.
Do you? Yeah. No, I mean for the crowd attending today.
Oh, the crowd, sorry.
50-odd-thousand?
I'm a bit ahead of myself. Yeah, I reckon we ought to get 50,000 because it looks a very, very good crowd. Just last year we were really better than Derby Day, but it might be a bit hard this time.
And you like Danarani?
I like Danarani.
Yeah, in the Oaks.
Yeah.
I don't know about this. This is an open betting race. I keep looking at the race book and thinking, what am I going to back? What can you do? I mean, this week is just so terrific. I suppose it's a process every year of thinking to yourselves, what can we do to make it better?
Yes, there's always new ideas coming up. We've done a lot of improvements here at Flemington in the last 12 months, and they've been very good and been able to handle the crowds. I think the way the crowds have been handled in this week have been terrific, and the organisation must pay tribute to our track people for the way they've organised it.
Yes, Yes, absolutely. The track looks great, and the roses eventually came out.
Yes, well, we'll have late roses all through the summer probably now, like we did last year.
Yes, well, there's the professor there too. We just got a nice shot of Roy. He's doing some studying, and there are the beautiful roses of Flemington. It's a marvellous week, and I suppose, David, all we can hope for next year is that maybe Huey's kinder to us after a few bad ones.
Well, 3 in a row is a bit rough, so we'll be trying hard to get a better weather next year.
All right, thanks for coming up and joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Just stay there for a second. VRC Chairman David Burke. So these are the 3 designers. We'll just give you a quick update on our designers before we go down to Peter and Jenny. They're the 3 outfits we want you to call for. 0055 60207 for table 8, 60209 for feathers. All beautiful outfits, by the way, absolutely magnificent. And 60211 for Leslie Watson. And there's some fashion being judged down on the field as we speak, I think. So Michelle will be down there amongst all of that. And there is just some of what is a very big crowd. $1,000 worth of Sony gear you win if we pick your telephone call, so ring as often as you like between now and 3:30, so that's a little while away. And for the designer, the prize is a Reef Escape cruise, and all the best of luck to all.